Hi, you're watching Sipping Off the Cuff on TequilaAficionado.com and Tequila Aficionado Media and probably YouTube. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That young man over there is
Rick Levy in San Diego.
And Rick, I'm really excited because we are going to do probably one of our favorite tequilas of not just you and me, but probably a lot of tequila files and tequila nuts and people just discovering tequila. We are going to be dissecting Don Pilar. You can see I've dissected several ounces of my Don Pilar. But the interesting thing is, for those of you who have been watching our Don Pilar series, you heard Alex and myself talk about the Blanco and the Extra Añejo. If you haven't seen it, go back to YouTube and check it out. It's got a lot of reverb, sorry, but you know, that's the way it works sometimes when you have no budget. So, but anyway, we nominated the Blanco and the Extra Añejo, you know, for Brand of Promise. We could not. There's so many neat things about it. But you have a special interest in the Reposado. This is the last of the expressions that Don Pilar has come out with.
That's right. The Reposado is the newest in the line as of 2016.
Yeah.
So,
how
you know, when the brand came out, it was just the Añejo. He was interested in the Añejo. That was the one he wanted to build, and he built that. And that was in, when was that? That was in 2008. And then in 2011, he took 2 steps back and released his Blanco.
Yeah.
And then after that, he took 3 steps forward and released the XA in, what was that, 2012. And then last year, 2 steps back again, came out with the Reposado.
It sounds like he did the Tequila Cha-Cha or something. You know,
yeah.
2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
But he actually did some, he did some market testing on the Reposado before he finalized it.
Yeah.
And I was part of one of the groups that, got to, blind test 4 samples and provide feedback. And, now that process is over, looking back, I think, the samples we got were actually, I think it was all the same process, just different length of time in the wood.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was like a 2.5 month, a 3.5 month, a 6 month, and then an 8 month.
Which one did you like? Which one did you prefer?
You know how we've been talking about how a lot of lines are making a statement with their Reposado now.
Yes,
It's not just the halfway point on the way to the Añejo,
right,
or the softened Blanco that's not too sweet. So a lot of Reposados now are making a statement in their second position there. And so I was actually really interested in the 8-month version. I thought that was really interesting, had a lot of character. But I felt like the 6-month version was sort of the natural, median point between the Blanco and the Añejo. And I think that's what he ended up going with, because we look at the product now, it says it's aged 6 months.
Okay.
And so
that
I think that's where...
That was another issue that we were discussing also, was that there seems to be, and probably more so with the Añejo, there seems to be so many different months that are on their printed material, but I guess we can
stay tuned for our Añejo video.
Yeah, that's gonna
there's a very good explanation for it, logical and certainly reasonable, and so stay tuned for that little nugget.
Yes.
But going with the 6 month, I felt like it was kind of the natural progression. And it really makes sense for the man and his line, Don Pilar, because it really is kind of an elegant, classic. It's not frivolous. It's not, it's not prone to being, overly elaborate. It is just a classic solid wine. Like, after you've gone out and, you've partied with everybody else, this is the one you can come home to and spend a lot of time with.
There you
And,
go.
Don Pilar himself, he's
He's larger than life. First of all, he's a very tall man. By the way, his name is Don Pilar Contreras. This man is a restaurateur in Central California. He is a former actor in
well, you can check out the website. They have his timeline on there, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And he's one of these guys that has pulled himself up by his bootstraps from meager beginnings.
Yes.
Started his family. I guess his grandfather was the first one in the family to buy a ranch and have his own agaves. I'm not sure if he was an agavero before that, or a jimador, or I don't know. But his grandfather bought a ranch, and then the family they were agaveros, and then Don Pilar became a seasonal worker here in the United States, and then and I'm sure he was always saving all of his money, not being frivolous, and then he opened up some taquerias with some partners, and he's just, everything has just always built on the next, and there's been nothing frivolous or wasted, and it just really makes sense for his line to be the same way.
I totally agree. I may have mentioned in our Blanco and the Extra Añejo versions that I spent a considerable amount of time with his son Juan Carlos Contreras, who is a graphics artist and responsible for the graphics and the layout of the bottle. Beautiful presentation. I think we went on. If I'm not mistaken, we went ahead and nominated this for Brand of Promise in the packaging category as well, because it's just
it is one of the most elegant presentations.
Yeah, you can serve it and pour it from the neck. You can hold it. It's very bar friendly. You can serve it from the bottom. If you go to Mexico and eat at a nice elegant restaurant, you'll see a lot of the waiters will pour from the bottom like a bottle of wine. And you can do both with this bottle, and that's the way they designed it. Anyway, I think what we need to do is we need to get into the juice. I'm going to do like you, though. I'm going to use a Glencairn, because
tonight,
really?
I'm going to the Riedel, because
why?
I think this is. I think the Riedel and this line are a really great match for each other.
Oh, okay.
It is I think of it almost as like a more conservative profile. You definitely have the agave there. You have everything there that you would be looking for, but it's just it's very elegant and classic. And so I think the Riedel is probably, from my experience so far, and my hypothesizing, I think the Riedel would probably do this profile the most justice.
Well, I'm going to go and swing the other direction and try the Glencairn. When we first had these brands, and I guess for the sake of transparency, we have tasted this tequila before. We have just never had it on Sipping Off the Cuff. And in fact, I've had it several times. And each time it's always been with a Riedel, and now that we have a larger selection of glassware, I'm anxious to see what I can get out of it from the Glencairn.
Yeah.
Wow. And then we say
I don't consider Don Pilar as having a beefy profile like a lot of the the new wave of craft tequilas. They're doing lots of interesting things, and this is really it's a classic, I think.
Well, the Blanco was very interesting. I remember the first time I ever actually had it, and then years later having it again with Alex, and the Blanco has not changed at all. That terroir in that area from his agave has really, and it wasn't even myself that it was somebody else I was listening to that actually had said it's got a really beefy flavor profile. The Blanco does. You know, I said it was dumb when I first tasted it. I said, oh, it's chewy. It's like I want to chew this thing, you know. But it's interesting to see what they did with the Reposado.
I find the Blanco to be kind of green and crisp and you know, very kind of fresh. I don't get a whole lot of baked notes. I get the you know, that classic Highlands you know, kind of apple flavor at the center of it, and but then I get like you know, some green apple, some green pineapple, some citrus zest, and I think that is, you know, at least in the nose here so far, it's certainly coming through.
See, and
but it's rounded out a bit.
I've had this bottle since late last year, actually, before we were able to get your bottle, and
yeah, this is actually my first bottle of the Reposado since I did that, you know, that market analysis tasting.
What now? So, how many months did you say this was? What the final was a 6 months?
6 months.
Okay.
6 months in virgin American oak. And so it hasn't been used for whiskey or bourbon. You know, they were new barrels when they started. And you were saying that they told you they only used their barrels for 5 years.
Yeah, or 5 different iterations, or you know, there's a number 5 that was thrown into me, and so I'm going to assume that it's been used. You know, after 5 different restings,
yeah,
do something else with the barrel. Okay, so
I would assume, you know, if they are using, you know, barrels that have, you know, might have been used a couple of times before for, you know, their own expressions, you know, they might be doing a blend centered on that, you know, kind of 6 month point where they've chosen to pick their profile.
I get a lot of wood notes on this, and I do at the bottom. I am getting the agave. I'm still noticing it.
I get, you know, the agave's really, the Blanco is really present for me here in the Riedel, but it is warmed by the barrel. I'm getting some barrel spice in addition to the pepper that we get from the Blanco.
Well, the pepper is still there also. I just go ahead and try some. I mean, I just took a sip and it just exploded in my mouth there. Yeah,
just like with the Blanco, I would find that, you know, the pepper would really pop on the palate. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that great pepper sensation is certainly there.
I think they did a good job in choosing the right month. You know, it would be interesting to taste if they bottled any of the 8 month, just to see the slight difference. Do you think that this is actually making a statement? I think it's got a great finish. It's warm. You know, it's enough to round out.
I think it's a great profile. And I think it, you know, they were kind of targeting that classic halfway point between the Blanco and the Añejo. I think, you know, the Blanco is definitely present. It's rounded out slightly. You're getting some barrel notes. And, you know, I don't think it's making a statement. But I think it's, you know, it's lovely.
Do you think it's worthy of a brand of promise coming from the Don Pilar camp? Or do you think it makes it strong enough?
Since this came out in 2016, would you put it in the legacy category, or would you?
No, this particular brand, I would hesitate putting it in a legacy category yet.
Yeah.
Only because for me, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe not, but for those of us in the front office here, a legacy brand for us is anything that survived 10 years or more on the market. And I think this falls like right under. I think they're like 8.5, 9 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
there was. You know, and they didn't release the whole line at once.
Exactly.
You know, for the longest time it was just the Añejo, and so this is a new tequila to the market.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's I think it's absolutely lovely, and I think it's worthy of a nomination for its profile. There's
I agree.
absolutely nothing wrong with it.
And now that it's opening up a little bit more, I'm getting a little bit of that apple you talked about. It's almost like an apple or a pear, and I think that's coming from the barrel. It should.
You think so?
Yeah,
I get that a lot. I pick that up a lot. Of course, everybody has their own, sort of vocabulary when they're describing these things, but that kind of apple note is something I find myself using a lot with Highlands tequilas.
See,
I always really kind of find that at the center.
See, I find a lot of citrus, a lot of orange blossoms, citrus, lime zest. I get a lot of that.
And you can still pick that up here too.
Oh yeah. It's really lovely, and it's. I think it's important to note that we need to tell folks that if you don't remember or don't know anything about Don Pilar, their master distiller is Leopoldo Solis and his partner Gabriela Spendula, and you and I have discussed it. We've discussed it for years. They are the inventors or the innovators of the Mozart method, which is where they play classical music, Baroque music, while the yeast is fermenting. And
so now, all right. So this is Nom 1443, right?
I believe so.
So they call their distillery Las Trasquila, but the company is Grupo Industrial Tequilero de los Altos Jalisco.
Yes, they're a co-op. They're a co-op of growers.
Now, but we know that Nom 1414 is known for the Mozart method as well.
Right.
So, has there been some kind of cross-pollination with the distillers, or has the method just been picked up by others?
No, the ingenieros, the engineers, that they obviously freelance. In other words, Don Pilar is an account of theirs, and they have a lot of say as to.
Well, he's actually one of the owners of the distillery as well, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That they've laid out the distillery the way they want it to. They've designed it. They're the engineers that put this together. They have also freelanced and advised and consulted with, of course, Nom 1414. They were consulting and probably are still being used. Their method, anyway, is still being used at San Nicolas, which produces Espolón and Cabo Wabo. In fact, I mentioned before that when Cabo Wabo was bought by Campari and moved to the same distillery as Espolón, that Cabo Wabo actually got better. And I believe that technique is the reason why. My understanding is also that Cazadores, even though now it's owned by Bacardi, and who knows, there are rumors that it's now being manufactured with a diffuser, but they are still using the Mozart method in that distillery also. So the engineers, the chemical engineers, are well respected in the industry. I believe they're members of the CRT or have a lot of say with the CRT. So it doesn't surprise me that they have several tequilas that are in their stable. And you and I have had a couple and a few others.
Sevilla comes from 1443.
Yeah.
I don't have a Don Pilar shirt, so
I actually do, but I can't wear it. But anyway, I actually have a really cool bowling shirt. I'll have to show it to you. But anyway, that's our take on Don Pilar Reposado. We're gonna stick with us because we've got the añejo version that we're gonna really talk about. But Brand of Promise nominee, I say in the Reposado category. I think also, of course, for packaging, can't go wrong with that. Everything you want to know about the brand is either on the label, on the website. Again, his son Juan Carlos Contreras, who is responsible for all the layout that you see here in the bottle. In fact, just so you guys know, every expression has a different picture of Don Pilar in the same pose, and it's a different.
And he gets a little bit older every
Yeah,
time.
as the bottle goes along, it gets a little bit older. So it's kind of neat if you see that.
That's a lovely concept.
He's done a wonderful job with the packaging. There's a song on the back, and excuse me, you're going to have to spend some time with the packaging because it's really something. But anyway, stick with us because we'll be back, or you can watch us on YouTube. Subscribe down below, and you can catch us also on Tequila Aficionado. But we'll be back shortly with the añejo version of Don Pilar. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio.
Rick in San Diego.
And as we like to say here, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.